Welcome to Custom Homebuilders Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software designed specifically for the professional home builder. So we've gotten our chart of accounts set up in the previous videos before this one. And you may, as you're new to CHS, it could be that you have some other books that you've been keeping and that you have some balances forward that you need to start with in CHS so that your books come forward correctly. That's what this video is going to be about how how you put in your balances forward from some other set of books. Now, if you're just starting fresh and clean, brand new bank account, whatever, with CHS, or you're going to put in everything for the past couple of months that you've been in business, and you're just going to start from the beginning, you won't need to do this balances forward part, but it's most likely that you will. It is very critical that you have your accountant involved in helping you make sure that your books that you've had before CHS are in good form. In other words, your bank accounts are reconciled, that all your balances look good for coming forward into CHS, and that you get a good, what they call trial balance, if it's from QuickBooks and most any other accounting thing, as of a certain date, as of the end of that day, of a certain day, that you're going to put in as your balance forward date. For example, the balance forward date might be the end of the year, and it'd be 12/31 some year, and then you're coming forward. It's usually the end of a month date, that kind of thing. But anyway, we're going to talk all about doing balance forwards, some about how you gather your balances and how you post them in CHS, etc. So let's get started by opening the chart of accounts. I've opened the books for our demo company, Fantastic Builders, which has actually already had a lot of transactions after the balance forward date. And it did its balance forwards properly, but I purposely went and undid one of them so that CHS would be telling us that we need to finish our job there. Over here on the right, you can see that balance is forward sum, goal is 0, but right now it's 5,000. You'll understand that a little bit more after I start talking. In this column, you can see that we set up a balance forward date. And that's very important. You'll have to do that first. Quite often, a balance forward date is the end of a fiscal year, or perhaps the end of a month. And again, you should have your cash accounts reconciled and tying to your books, your previous books, and other things reconciled. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. So when you first get CHS, you will click this Setup Balance Forward Date. And again, it's usually the last day of a year or month. It's not, right now we're in the year 2016, so let's pretend you got CHS. You need to put, and you want to start all your new stuff January 1st, 2016. Your balance forward date would actually be 12/31/2015. It's as of midnight, the night before. That's what you need to think of your balances forward as of the night before, because you don't want to put something like January 1st, 2016, because you might have some real transaction data that's not part of your balance forwards. You need to start from midnight the night before. So usually it's a year-end date, or it could be a month-end date. It's not common that I would ever see somebody using some middle of the month date or something for a balance forward date. They'll figure out their balances as of an end of a period and put those balance forwards in, and then start entering their stuff in CHS after that date, although we will be talking about how to enter prior period detail and prior period accounts payable and open accounts receivable that are open as of your balance forward. The date you enter here should be the same date you get your balances forward from your prior accounting system. It should be one day before the first current period that is set up. When you see the videos about Company Master, etc., you will see about setting up current periods for accounting. Let's say we are getting it, we might set up our current period to be January 1st, 2016 to December 31st, 2016. so that nobody goes and enters information prior to this year, current information, or even after. Your controller of your company controls those current period dates. They can change them as needed. They could make them less lengthy period, 2 or 3 months, or however they like to control that. Please watch the help about that. In our particular set of books, however, it is an old set of books because it's just our demo. We don't want to keep re-entering data because that would take forever. Our balance forward date was December 31st, 2001. You would type that in or select it in the counter and in the calendar. Be sure to use 4 digits for the date, and then you would submit that new balance forward date. It will not let me change this right now if I even tried, because I've already entered balance forwards, etc., and it will detect that and tell me that it can't be changed. But I'll just click close, do not change, because I've already entered. The next step that you need to do is get from your accountant, work with your accountant, or use your previous software. Make sure you have what I call a reconciled trial balance from your old book as of the end of your balance forward date. Most any software should be able to get you a trial balance, or your accountant can help you put together what is called a trial balance. And by trial balance, it means a list of your accounts on your chart of accounts that have balances and what those balances are as of that date. That's what a trial balance is as of any certain date, but we need it as of our balance forward date. These will be used as balances forward to set up your books in this program. If you are doing balances forward as of the end of a fiscal year, you should have also already closed your income statement accounts into something like retained earnings, etc., so that the only balances that you are putting forward in CHS will be asset, liability, and equity accounts, and not any for sales or revenues. That's because you're just bringing balances forward for the end of a fiscal year, and you'll start a new batch of things for income statements. The trial balance will include accounts with debit, which are positive numbers, and credit, which are negative number balances. Asset accounts usually have debit balances, except for the accumulated depreciation. Liabilities and equity accounts generally have credit balances. Sales and revenue accounts generally have credit balances. In other words, there'll be a minus sign in front of it, and that doesn't mean it's minus stuff. It just means it's a credit. Cost of sales and expense accounts generally have debit balances. The net of all of these balances totaled together should equal 0, meaning you have a balanced set of books. This is a double entry system where you have debits and credits going on. CHS is doing a lot of those offsets for those as you enter information. But that when you sum up all of your balances forward, they should total to 0, the sum of your debits and credits. And that means you're starting with a balanced set of books. You should figure out how much of each account's balance forward is for each job or department that you have set up. You will not be doing that for bank accounts. CHS figures out how much cash is contributed from a job by summing together all the other accounts besides the bank account and figuring out where they've been paid from. The accounts that might normally have balances for each job would be direct construction costs, a work in progress account you might have, some construction loans payable. Maybe you received interim draws for some jobs in progress. Maybe you received down payments, or you've posted some sales and cost of sales that should be allocated to a job that are coming forward in your balance forwards. And you will see in a moment how you need to gather how much is in each account for each job, and if you are using departments, how much is in various accounts for each department, because you will be selecting a job and department as you enter your balance forwards, so that we can do our little financial statements for each department, or little financial and cash flow for each job. I do say down here that if you do not have all of your balances forwards ready and you want to begin using the program, you could. I don't strongly advise it. I really think you should take the time out to get your reconciled trial balance correct. That's going to come forward Don't get too big of a hurry to start doing all of your accounting until you have your balance forward numbers figured out and that they are correct. And get those entered, because really your life would be a whole lot easier later on if you're ever challenged by a banker or something about balances in your accounts. You would have wanted to have good proven balance forwards entered and be ready to go, and you don't want to do anything about confusing yourself trying to get job costs in that maybe already were in your balance forwards, etc. So even though I say you could get started by just entering your checking account balances because you're wanting to track those, but you don't have your other numbers, you could do it. CHS is posting things to an offset account, balance forward clearing account. So anyway, we went over entering the balance forward date, and now we'll just go over taking care of entering one balance forward. We won't enter a whole bunch. We've already entered a bunch. So let me just do that visually rather than on here. CHS is for every balance forward entry that you make here, it will post an offset entry to this GL account 9999 called balances forward. You can see that on your chart of accounts and you cannot delete it. CHS needs to use it to keep your books in balance, but you can see it under the equity accounts down here. You can see 9999 balance forward clearing account, and you will not be able to delete that, but you can. Your goal is that you want that to be 0. So say you have a cash balance forward at 1,000, you'll enter 1,000, then CHS will post, you'll enter $1,000 debit. CHS will, behind the scenes, post $1,000 credit for that. And then you come along and you post something else. Eventually, you would come down to 0 because these are the opposites of everything you're entering for balance forward. You can print a list of your balance forward summary and see what you have posted and what's causing it. It should be 0. This is going to show you all the accounts except the 9999, all the balances forward except the 9999. So if you have a trial balance from your other books, you can tick it off here against your other books and say, oh, I have this trial balance and I actually have a down payment that was in 2001 that I need to post. That's on my trial balance, but I just skipped right by it. You know, in your printed account trial balance from your other books. So I need to still also post that balance forward as a down payment on a job. So this is how you post all of your balance forwards. We're going to be posting our contract, our down payments to an account on our chart of accounts, and discuss this with your accountant. But because we are on a completed contract method, we're keeping all of our money in some accounts that are recognized as construction liability accounts until we close the job. But our down payment, pay no attention to these numbers. Like I said, we've been entering things in years after now for this demo books. We're only paying attention to this column right here, right now. Just play like you don't see these balances right now. So let's go over here. The way you enter a balance forward is you do that with the pencil edit icon that's right to the right of the balance forward. So let's do that. And I'm going to add a new balance forward record to this account. And I'm actually going, you might have 2 or 3 balances forward for different jobs, but I'm going to select a job. It had to do with this job we have set up called H11 River. And let me pause to say that you should set up jobs first, of course, so that they will be here in the drop-down list that you're going to need to be using for your balance forwards. In other words, your jobs that are in progress as of your balance forward date. The department just dropped in automatically because I have it attached to this job when I set it up, and you can watch videos about that. If there's some real serious reason you need to do another department, you can. Or maybe you're just leaving the generic H job because it's just a balance forward that doesn't relate to a job, and then you would want to select which department you want it applied to. Now I'm going to do this wrong. A liability account like contracts deposits should be a minus 5,000, which if you looked at our balance forward total there, that's what we're needing as a credit for $5,000. But I'm going to enter it as a debit. just for a second. Alert. This GL account is set up as a current liability type of account. Balances for this type of account are normally credit balances or negative balances. If you are sure this should be a debit, because it could be, or a positive number, click the OK button. Otherwise, click the cancel. So see how CHS is checking for what a normal balance is for the different types of accounts and giving you notice about that just in case you make a mistake. So it said that will not be added yet, and because I got that pop-up, I went, oh, whoops, this should be a credit balance. So I'm changing it to a credit balance, and I'm going to submit. This will just be little notes coming from when you set up this account on your chart of accounts if you want information. We showed a little bit earlier about how to write notes. So let's submit this new balance forward record. And it says, for your information, even though balance forward totals for jobs in progress accounts should be entered by job for your accounting, this is to let you know that a balance forward entry for a job will not be included on subsidiary job cost or job revenue reports. You can enter the prior period detail for job revenues on the deposits window or the prior period detail of job costs on the post payables bills section. CHS will take care of handling prior period entries so that they do not interfere with this balance forward posted for jobs. Please read help information about posting prior period entries, and we will have some future videos about that. So I'm going to click OK. It will only tell you that when you're posting things to jobs. So it's been posted, so now we can see it here in a list. Now if we happen to have more balance forwards for this contract deposits, for some other job, we would add a new balance forward record to the account. I mean, that $5,000 we were off could have been $3,000 for one job, $2,000 for another job, and you would start seeing them listed here. I'll close that and see if I got my books in balance now. My balance forwards in balance, I mean. The books always sort of stay in balance. Yep, my goal was 0, and I've reached 0. Let's take a look at our direct construction costs or work in progress just for a second to see what we posted when we set up those balance forwards. That's the 1430. Let's click this pencil edit icon right here for the 1430, which means I can review what I entered for balance forwards. And you'll see that I did enter one for two different jobs here. One in the remodeling department, test 1. Another job that's in the custom homes department, and I entered some balance forwards. Now we will have some future videos. This is probably job costs, and we will have some videos about entering those prior period job costs so that you can have those on subsidiary job cost reports. These numbers entered don't have cost codes. They're just the grand total of your balances forward. So they will not show up on job cost reports. You'll want to, if you have jobs in progress and you want full job cost reports, you'll want to enter the detail behind these as prior period entries. And like I said, that will be in future videos. You could also open the summary of all your accounts there. If you want to also do this report up here, which is books balances forward, it will break it by the job and departments. We've made a lot of entries while we were trying to reconcile our cash account or do videos, I think. You know, if you make a mistake and you just need to fix the balance forward for one of your accounts, you can make a second entry by using that pencil edit icon. There's that work in progress broken by job, property, plant, construction equipment, current liabilities. You can see our construction liability where we entered that credit for $5,000 for that job. So this is a good report to look at to see if you got everything broken down by job and department. Now one more thing I'd like to mention in doing balance forwards is if you try to, let's go down to accounts payable, trade, which is marked as we showed in previous videos as a control account. It's going to control the balance for accounts payable. If you try to click the pencil edit icon for that, it's going to tell you that you're going to need to post the balance forward for accounts payable. in an account called prior period accounts payable. And notice how we have posted a balance forward. In other words, we should have some accounts payable invoices that have not been paid but were posted to our prior set of books so that we have an accounts payable balance forward. The reason CHS wants you to put it in the prior period accounts payable is that in our next video we are going to talk about posting your prior period unpaid accounts payable that are part of your accounts payable balance. And what CHS is going to do, it's going to know what to do with that. It's going to take that amount out of prior period accounts payable, and put it into your current accounts payable trade. And so your goal is that this also reaches zero. That means you've gotten your balance forward, your individual invoices that were unpaid that tie to your accounts payable entered. The same concept happens if you try to post directly to the control accounts for accounts receivable. It will not let you post a balance forward because CHS is actually going to control this. And it will let you, and it tells you that we want you to post your prior period accounts receivable open invoice balances, what's on your books, to the prior period accounts receivable, and then we will have a video about going and posting the invoice so that you have it in your accounts receivable as a prior period accounts receivable open invoice. And CHS will, in addition, remove the amount of your invoices from this prior period accounts receivable and get them into accounts receivable trade. I just wanted to point that out because that's part of doing balance forwards. But our very next videos will be about taking care of those individual, getting the detail behind some of the balances into CHS. And thank you for watching.